How's it going, everybody? And happy New Year to you. I want to take a couple minutes up front here and just kind of talk about what I've been up to lately from a non-technical perspective, and then we can go through a tech support Thursday. Even though this is a Monday, I feel like I just need to cover some questions that have been posted lately, and get back into at least some sort of a cycle of getting recordings done and actually doing some of the projects that I said I was going to go do. So this might be the New Year's update of what I've been doing over the past few months. Might take a little longer than I've planned, but you know what? Let's just go with it. So the end of last, or technically it's the beginning of this year. So end of February, early March of 2021. I was out at my son's snowboarding. Was it practice or was it competition? One of the two. I forget because it's been a while since I don't remember the specific date, but I always wanted to learn how to ski, and it was my son has been my I have a 12-year-old and a 19-year-old. My youngest son has been snowboarding since he basically could walk. So we're talking since two. We He saw a snowboarding competition on TV. I think it was the X Games, if I'm not mistaken, or it was the Olympics, one of the two. And he said, "Mom, I want to try that." So we got him a snowboard, and he tried snowboarding. We took him to some of the local hills in the area around Milwaukee, and got him a couple of private lessons, and he fell in love with it. So, long story short, fast forward basically 9, 10 years, and he's been snowboarding pretty much his entire life. The last 5 years, he's been competing on a team, and we regularly take him out to Alpine Valley. So, if you know the southeastern Wisconsin area, Alpine Valley is west of where I live. So, we take him out there. Now, for the first few years, my wife would be the one to take him, and occasionally I would tag along. And unfortunately, for my past job, um, I my ability to go with them was hindered because I would usually have to be at on a call at 7 o'clock at night till 9 o'clock in the evening, and it just the previous job I was in as a full time instructor didn't really give me a whole lot of latitude to have any type of evening time with the family, so it was detrimental there. So, and it's the family suffered in a lot of ways. It caused a lot of issues between the wife and I, and stuff like that. A lot of stuff a lot of that personal stuff I don't share here on YouTube, especially consider this is a technical. I have a technical channel, and I want to keep it more technically focused. But long story short, when I ended up meeting one of the ski instructors. I was introduced to him through my wife, and his son is a competitive snowboarder and is really good. Like, he's really good at jumps and stunts and things like that. So uh, my wife introduced me to him because she knew him through his son. His son is in college or just graduated college, something like that. And his son would teach my son different tricks because I think his son is in his early 20s, has been snowboarding for almost 20 years. So he's really good. Like, he's competitive snowboarder, does tricks, all the big stuff that you go see on the X Games. That's the type of snowboarder that he is. He's really, really good. My son's 12 and still trying to come up through the ranks and, try stuff out and things like that. So he showed my son a lot of different things and how to approach jumps and things like that. And it's one thing that my wife and I, we've never really been snow sport people. We'll go tubing every once in a while, but tubing doesn't require any skill, right? You just sit in the thing and just go down the hill and hope to God you don't fall out of it. For any of you that have ever gone down a steep a tubing hill or tubing run. So, long story short, like I said, I always wanted to learn how to ski, and when I was introduced to my son's snowboarding coach's dad, we'll call him Dave because that's actually his name. I won't say last name, but I was introduced to Dave, and I said, and we were talking because Dave's son Lucas was there and was talking to my son Jack, and we were going back and forth, and um, my wife goes, "Oh, well, my husband wants to learn how to ski." And Dave, who's a ski instructor, goes, "Oh, okay." He's just like, have you ever skied before? I go, well, technically, yes, a couple times, but I've never really. I said the first ski instructor I had didn't speak very good English. They were from like South America. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. South America, how it doesn't snow in South America, but anyway, ski instructor down there, um, and it was very hard to understand him. He had a very thick accent, didn't speak very good English, so it was trying to explain to me how to turn and how to stop, and it wasn't clicking. So now I've skated a lot, rollerblades, roller skates, and things like that. So they're similar in some respects, but not in everything. So I realized that I was going to need somebody to like proverbially take me by the hand and show me how things work. And that's exactly what this guy did. So there were a couple of Thursdays at the end of the season that I went out and got some private lessons from him. And he was really cool about it. It was just like he started me off from the basics and worked our way up. Started off on the baby hill, the really, really, the hill that's got barely any pitch to it. And then we went to the bunny hill, which is a little steeper, but isn't very long, which, teach you how to turn, how to stop, getting wedge or the snow plow, the pizza slice where your skis are like this. Your skis are like that, heels are back here, and you're using that to control, you learn how to turn. Well, I only went, I think, 7 or 8 times skiing after I learned the basics. But I was going down longer runs, and I was I was getting more and more confident, but still pretty new to it. Anyway, we'll fast forward through the summer. We're doing the summer thing. You can't really ski in the summertime. So come right after New Year or Thanksgiving. So we're talking about a month and a half ago now. Um, I the Alpine Valley posted that they had a 1 foot base of snow. So it had gotten cold enough to where they could actually make snow and all that type of stuff. So my son got a new snowboard because he had outgrown his last year's board, and that usually happens when you're dealing with kids that are competitive. So we got him a Capita snowboard that fits him. It's a park board, so he's able to jump on rails and boxes and things like that. And he's also got a Donic race board, and it's a little bit thicker, a little bit stiffer for doing things like slalom, giant slalom, stuff like that, where you're going through gates and you're doing that back and forth slalom mogul type of runs. Well, I started going out there with him, and the first I'd say 10, 15 runs, you're just getting back into it. But I started going every time that he would go out. So instead of my wife going out by herself, I would go with her. And so we were going Tuesday, Thursday for practice, and then and Saturdays for practice. So I was going out 3 days a week, and for a few hours each time. So you're able to get in a good 30, 40 runs. If the chairlifts aren't busy, you're able to bang out quite a few runs. And so that's exactly what I've been doing. So for the past couple months, so we're talking the end of right after Thanksgiving until yesterday. As a matter of fact, we went out skiing yesterday, and so that's exactly what we've been doing. I've been spending the majority of my time going out to the ski hill and skiing. My son snowboards, and my helmet that I've got a GoPro, so I mount my GoPro to the helmet, and it gives my point of view. But I'm able to go down the run or ride the chairlift up to the run that the park is attached to. Park just means that you've got jumps and things like that in it. So the terrain park, we call it park for short. But I was able to go down the run to get to park, and I'm able to go downhill of him, and I'll stay off to the side and I'll film him, just by watching him come along and pull up my phone and things like that, and record him, hitting boxes and stuff like that, and then he'll unstrap his snowboard, where we'll ride down to the chairlift, and we'll come back up and wash, rinse, and repeat a bunch of times, and then we'll go free ride on some of the other runs and stuff like that. Because I'm not skilled enough yet to go down any of the real steep runs like a Black Diamond. I'm a little bit more confident than the Green Circle, which is usually a beginner run, and I typically like going down like Blue Square. You know, so if you've ever have any understanding of what that means is, you know, green circle means baby hill basically. You know, a very pretty flat run, but you still get to go downhill. And then you got blue square, which means that the sometimes the pitch, you know, the steepness increases, the angle of the attack increases, and you've got some, you know, there's some dips and stuff like that that come into play. And then you got the black diamond, and there's single, double, and triple black diamonds. So you've got, you know, black diamond would be like this, double black would be like that, triple black would be like that, where you're going really, really steep, and you're doing a lot of, you know, you have to be really confident on your skis. I'm not quite there yet. I've gone down the black diamonds at Alpine Valley a few times, and it's real steep, and it's above my comfort zone. So I can handle it for the most part in certain places, but the speed at which you gain going downhill, I have to really focus on technique, and I'm not going very quickly. Where on some of the not so steep runs, you know, the blue square, I am. 1 second here. Let me make sure that I'm not getting pinged for anything. I'm able to go down pretty easily. So that's what I've been doing. That's the majority of my time has been spent doing that, and so that effectively has become my new hobby. So for the longest time, sitting in front of the computer, recording videos and training content and things like that, that was my hobby. And I got to a certain point where it just being in front of the computer, you know, just wasn't as appealing anymore. So I started to peel back, and I took the last week of the year off. So basically from Christmas Eve on the 24th until basically yesterday, I was off on vacation. And out of that entire time, I maybe spent an hour on the computer, if I'm lucky. And that was because I had to like log in to submit my hours for work, or oh no, I'm sorry. It's probably 2 hours now that I think about it, because I had to offload the video from my GoPro. So offload that, and then put it on my share drive so that I would be able to access it from my phone and things like that. But other than that, no time spent in front of the computer, and it was actually something that I really needed, because you spend so much time in front of your computer on a regular basis. Where I used to be kind of gloat about how many hours I'd be in front of the computer, where now it's like, okay, you know what? I don't spend any time in front of the computer, and it's nice it's nice having a new hobby. And so one of the things that I did over the summer was there's a ski hill that's a little bit north of me called Little Switzerland, or there's another one called Sunburst, and I believe we went to Little Switz. So we went to Little Switz, and I bought skis, ski boots, and ski poles, and a helmet. Or I didn't buy the helmet at the time, but because I work in IT and I need to protect the brain, I typically I wear a helmet just in case I do fall. Because if you don't think you're ever going to fall on a ski hill, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to fall on a ski hill. Even the best riders in the world still fall, because something happens and they still fall. So having a brain bucket is a good idea. As a matter of fact, it snowed here on Saturday, so New Year's Day. It snowed all day. So we got about 6 inches of snow here. And then it snowed earlier in the week, and I forget how many hours it snowed. It wasn't that long. It was a few hours. So we got a couple inches of snow, but it was really wet, heavy snow. And the problem with wet, heavy snow is, even with waxed skis and snowboards, there's gonna be a stickiness feeling to the snow when you're riding on it. And there were probably a dozen runs that I went on that Thursday, or was it Tuesday? I don't remember. No, it was Tuesday. It was Tuesday, because Tuesday, this was after Christmas, so this would have been the 25th was Saturday, 6th, 7th, 27th. So we went, because the 26th is Sunday, 27th, 28th. Did I get that right? I feel like I've got my dates wrong. No, 28th, that's right. So the 28th, he had practice. So we went out the 28th, and it snowed. It was snowing on the 28th, which was the Tuesday. So we were bebopping around down the hill, and I kept on falling. And not that I don't ever fall. I do fall occasionally because I'm still learning how to ski. I haven't even completed one full season yet. So I was going downhill, and I had never skied on fresh powder. I'd always skied on, just regroomed um, snow. So I was comfortable doing something that's pretty smooth. I never skied on that before, and it was wet and sticky. So and it was very, very bumpy. That's another thing that I noticed too, because it clumps really whenever you get wet snow. For any of you that didn't know this, it clumps very easily, which is really great for making snowballs or snowmen. Um, but it also sucks when you've got a lot of people on the runs, and I'm my confidence level is to the point where I'm not always turning in, the pizza slide or the wedge. I'm not always in wedge anymore. I usually ski pretty parallel for the most part on runs that I'm comfortable on, and then I use inside edge pressure to turn. So the camera's reversed, but if I'm dropping my right finger down and I put my inside edge, that's going to cause me to turn left. And if I drop my inside edge on my left ski, my left hand, and I pitch that in, I'm going to turn to the right. So that's how you turn. So I haven't gotten to the point now where I'm able to carve. So I have the ability of sliding on skis, which is how you would do eventually become a hockey stop. So I'm able to slide on skis like this to turn, and then I go back the opposite direction in order to turn. So I ski slide. So I slide on my skis, and that helps me turn, and it also helps me control my braking and things like that. And when you're coming to the bottom of a run, I've also become comfortable with hockey stops. And so where you come in and you slide in like that. I can also stop in a wedge, which is, you come in and you bring the heels out and you slow down that way and putting inside pressure on the inside edge. So, because on snowboard you'd have toe edge and you have heel edge. I don't have a toe or heel edge. I have an inside and outside. So and I use downhill alpine skis, which means that the ends are wider than the middle section, which is narrower. So the skis have this kind of a radius attached to them. So if you put pressure internally in the ski in the middle, where your boots click into the bindings, and you push down on that and you push hard enough, the ski will have a natural arc to it. So that's what's going to help you turn. So when I started to attempt to start carving, to lean more on my edge and not be inside edge of my outside foot or my downhill ski, and then flat footed on the other one so I could turn, whatever direction I may be going, something like that. I started to carve, and I started falling. And, it was little things like I'd be too bumpy, I wasn't expecting it, things like that. And when you've never skied on fresh powder, it's a new experience because it's really bumpy. I was getting a lot of chatter, or they call it chatter, in your skis and your snowboards. Snowboard's not so bad because the fact that your both feet are strapped to the same piece of equipment. With skis, it's a little bit different because now you're having to engage more muscles. You're having to keep your feet together more because you're getting a lot of chatter. If you ever look at the tips of your skis, which you technically should be looking at your skis if you're doing it right, but if you ever look down at your skis, your tip shouldn't be doing this, right? Because you get a lot of chatter in the run. But long story short, I fell a lot, and I had one really bad fall where I was trying to we call it sliding. You're sliding on your skis, and I was using that to control my speed down the hill. So I'd be coming down like this, and going back and forth like that down the hill. So I'd be doing this kind of a movement down. Well, as I was going down, I hit a patch of ice that I didn't see. It was covered up by snow, and when I did, the back of my ski hit the ice. And if your ski ever hits ice and you're not in a carve, which means you're gonna try to ice skate through it, your ski's just gonna slide across it because the edge isn't my angle of attack, my inclination on my ski isn't steep enough to cut through the ice. To use the edge to cut into it. It's just going to slide across it like a knife would if you were trying to scrape ice. That's exactly what ended up happening. And when it happened, I was trying to slide through my turn, and I was turning, and as soon as the back half of my skis hit the ice, I lost all of my traction, and I ended up spinning around, and I lost my balance. And the moment you're not able to control how you fall, and what ended up happening was when when I was doing this, I was coming around, I was skidding into my turn like this. When the back half of my ski hit the ice, and once it passed the ice patch, which was actually pretty big, it was a 4 or 5 foot long section. Once it passed that section and I caught snow again and I got traction, because I had been doing like this, because I caught it and I was off balance already, I was leaning away from my turn. I leaned too far because I hit it all of a sudden like this. It was like a dead stop on the snow. I ended up going like this because my edge caught the snow and my balance was off, and it ended up throwing me over like this. So I basically went like, I did this maneuver over and I landed really hard on my right side. I'm glad I had a helmet on because I whacked the crap out of my head. It actually knocked my goggles off my helmet, or dislodged them. I had it mounted up here, and it took my goggles off. Popped my skis off my boots, and my poles went flying. So, in in skis terms, that's what they call a yard sale, because all of your equipment is laid out for everybody to see. Well, I happen to be skiing with a friend of mine. His son is on my son's snowboarding team, and he skis, so we were skiing together. So I basically have a friend now that I go ski with, and so he didn't know at the time that it was me that had fallen. He just knew that somebody had fallen, and so he was going to do the good skier etiquette and pick up all your equipment and bring it to you, because on any size run that's got any level of it's rather steep, and this particular run was kind of steep, and had an undulation, which means I was at the bottom of a drop off. So I was down here, and the drop off had, it wasn't this steep. It was more like this. It was more like that, but it was enough of a drop off to where if you're going to slide further than if you were on like level grade, where there's no bumps in it. So long story short, I fell pretty hard. So that's basically what ended up happening. And he came over and he helped me get I got reattached, and I took it easy. But I was hurting for the next couple of days. So, and then, if that wasn't bad enough, we went to another hill not too far from where we live, called Cascade Mountain, on Wednesday. So we did an evening pass. We did that. And then Thursday was a New Year's Eve party when we held it on the 30th, because we had some friends come in from out of town, some friends and some family, and we hung out and did New Year's Eve on the 30th, because that's the only time that they'd be available to come over, and we're really close with them, so they came over and we hung out and stuff like that. So that was basically and then New Year's Eve was 31st, and we the wife and I hung out, watched the movies and stuff like that. But that's basically what I've been up to. So I know it was a really long introduction, but you know what? I've actually been having a lot of fun with it, and I'm going to continue the skiing process. I've actually really enjoyed it. We got some snow Saturday, and so Sunday, yesterday, we went out to. My wife wanted to get on skis and try them out, so she put on my gear, and we went out in the front yard, and she was, going around the front yard trying to understand how the skis worked and stuff like that. And if you've never been on skis, or if you've never, they're similar to skates in certain respects. If you've ever been on roller skates, they're pretty similar, where if you lean in, your trucks are going to turn ever so slightly. I'm not sure. Your trucks are going to turn, so you can actually, the wheels will lean so that the inside wheels will be closer together than the outside wheels, which will allow you to turn left and right. So she was going through doing that type of stuff, which was it was cool to see her on that stuff. So anyway, sorry about that. There was a knock at the door, and my dogs were going crazy, so I had to pause. So anyway, with that being said, that is my update. So if you're still watching and I haven't gotten any technical content covered yet, I appreciate it. So that is what I've been up to for the past couple of months, and I've got some stuff that I've been working on slowly but surely. I've got the topologies built. I was thinking about writing a book. It's like a technical workbook, study guide, if you will, on some stuff, and kicking around the idea. I just don't know. So I don't know if I want to commit to it yet. It'd be one of those things I would write over a period of time, but covering things like service provider, Nexus in the data center, VXLAN, route switch, and it's kind of a big conglomeration of things. So I don't know yet. I'm still kicking around the idea of what I want to do and how I want to do it. So I want to dive into some of the questions that I've gotten over the past couple weeks and try to knock it out as quickly as I can, and go from there. So the first comment, I'm going to go from the top down to the most recent instead of going from the oldest to the newest. On Service Provider MPLS L3 VPN 1 section overview and what keeps me motivated. Your content is still relevant in helping engineers out. Keep it going. I appreciate that. I really do. So CCNP Encore and an RC video series 1 introduction. Hi Rob, I cannot see the option to join. Is this still available? It is still available. I've never taken down the join option, and I won't. I'm going to be hopefully gaining more members over time as time goes on, as I'm trying to, because I know eventually the skiing thing will die off, so I'm trying not to let the channel completely die off. So it is available. It just might not be available in your country. So I don't know another workaround for that. I've been thinking about doing a Patreon, and just giving people access to that as an alternative, but I don't know. I just don't know. I haven't done enough research on that one yet. I'll let you know. MPLS L2 VPN with XConnect and pseudowire template with Wireshark. Hi, could you give me a hand, please? What do you do to limit the bandwidth using XConnect and pseudowire? I couldn't get it. As far as I know, there really is no way to do that. As far as I know, there could be. I'm trying to think if QoS would be able to do it, because I think that's just a marking value with a QoS map. I know you can do traffic engineering with the preferred path. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to go look into that one. VMware NSXT data center exam passed for passing the new NSXT 3.0 exam. Hi Rob, can we pass the exam if we own a CCNA certification, and how to do it? Meaning, I think I understand what he's asking. If you have if you have a Cisco certification already, because NSX is the networking, is the network virtualization solution for VMware. If you have a CCNA, do you need? Can you take the exam with that? You can. I don't know if they still have the option available. I'm literally right here. I can go just check their website real quick. Let me log in. Let me take a look at VMware real quick and see what is supported. Let's go to VMware certification. Certification VMware, and then we're going to look at network virtualization. We're going to look at VCP. I know you can't see my screen, but so you get one of the options where if you, let me go ahead and just share my screen for a second. If you look right here, whoa, let me move this over here. I forgot that, there we go. So if you look right here, you can see where it says no VCP certifications. If you have a Cisco certification, you required to submit proof that you hold an active certification, right? And there's a submit proof option here, and then you need to pass the network virtualization exam. So yes, if you have a CCNA, and if you don't have, you are required to take a training course, and they have a bunch of options here. So yes, if you are Cisco certified and you want to get VMware certified, and this is actually as a bypass for taking that certification exam or that required class. And once you've earned your VCP in NSX, you can actually pivot into any of the other tracks. So data center, desktop mobility with Horizon, things like that. So that is an option for you if you want to do it as well. So keep that in mind. So yes, you can do it. How a $1,000 investment can help you earn $100,000 or more a year. Hello, Rob. I just passed my CCNP Enterprise, and I have 2 years experience as a knocker, so somebody who works in a network operations center. Do you think I will be able to earn 6 figures now? That's hard to say. You do have a CCNP, which is solid, means you have a deeper understanding than somebody with only a CCNA. I would say you're probably not going to get 100 grand a year working in operations. Um, Not to say you won't, but in my experience, most people that work in network ops, network operations, they don't see six figures. Um, a lot of times you need to get into network engineering. I did work in operations for a while a few years ago, for about 6 months, and I thought I wanted to go back into operations. I was wrong. Um, I like the long term piece of it where I can test things out and validate them, and I'm not trying to like troubleshoot things on the fly. Um, Especially in, well, God, I could go down a rabbit hole of where that network, how bad that network was. Anyway, not really worth the discussion here, but um, so it's possible. It depends on where you live and who you, what your employment options are. But I would say you're probably not going to get to where you want to be financially unless you get out of the network operations piece and get yourself into more of an engineering role. And I'd say that you're probably going to want to, if you've got a CCNP, try to get yourself into a VAR, a value added reseller, um, where you're acting as a consultant. So typically consultants make more than network ops. Um, I prefer being in consulting than rather than being in working for a single customer all the time, being a customer engineer, where you work for, say, ABC.com, and your network engineer only works on the ABC.com environment. I don't like working in those environments because to me they're too static. Things take too long to be done. I like to be busy and working a lot on different things, and it's more of a challenge for me. Sometimes it can be overwhelming at times, but I find consulting way more uh, worth the time and effort than a working in network operations. Now, I did work in network operations for a few years when I first got in the industry, and I wasn't making anywhere near six figures. That's why I'm. But this is 2012, 2013, 2011. So this is 10 years ago. So I would definitely say that if you're looking to make six figures, there are ways that you can get to six figures quicker, and you don't necessarily need to go the CCIE route. Um, you could definitely go, to be honest with you, you got an NP, right? I would take that NP and I would match it up with some cloud. I would do either AWS or Azure. I'd say probably AWS would probably be your best bet. If I was going to go cloud, I would probably go AWS first, because I think it's more ubiquitous. But not everybody does AWS. There's a lot of people that do Azure, but and then do some sort of VMware. That's going to be huge because I'm able to walk into an environment where they've got VMware running, data center, desktop mobility, and NSX, and I'm comfortable in all three. So I'd say that having some level of cloud would be good, and then also having some level of virtualization is going to be huge. That's definitely going to get you six figures without a doubt. I know a lot of people that do nothing but cloud, and some people are making close to 200,000 a year. So it just depends on what your capabilities are. VMware NSXT data center exam passed. Hi Rob, I just started with VMware and planning to get certified. What certification should I do as a beginner? That's a good question. Actually, let me pull the website back up. I forget what they have as a certification before. Oh, here it is. Right. Okay, so they changed the name of it. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. So they have this thing that is a VMware Certified Technical Associate, which is an entry-level exam. So if you were to, for example, do data center, which is, if you were going to do anything in VMware, I'd say data center's the better place to start, and then network virtualization, and then end user computing. So that's just, and the reason why I say it in those respects, because technically, end user computing and application modernization kind of fall in the same bucket with desktop mobility, because you can deliver desktops or you can deliver just applications. But data center virtualization, when you do this, this is going to be the VMware, or this is going to be your ESXi, this is going to be vCenter, this is going to be storage, this is going to be basic vSphere networking, things like that. And this is the one that I would go through and do. If you already have taken the prerequisite, this is the training class. Oh, so you don't need to take recommended. Attend one of the training courses. Okay. And then pass the exam. So, okay, so this is basically the VCA, the VMware Certified Associate. I took this 2013, I think. I took and passed this exam. So this would be your entry level, right? You know, you're going to basically be asked a bunch of questions about how the basics of VMware works. Look at the PDF for it. Now, if you want to take this a little bit deeper, and the VCP, which I bet they're going to make you do this guy right here. This is where you're going to have to attend one of the training classes. And so you'll have to pass the exam here. This one's more involved. It asks you more deeper questions on it. But if you have if you don't have any VMware certifications, then I'd say if you're Cisco certified, the easier way to go would be network virtualization. Pass the VCP for that, and then transition over to data center. And the key thing here with that is, and I'm not saying this is trying to work around to bypass the class, because the class is actually really good. If you have the ability of taking it, I would do it. The thing with the class, or I'm sorry, the thing with NSX is the questions are going to be specific to NSX. They're not going to be asking you data center questions on the NSX exam. They're not going to be asking you if you're installing NSX to a transport node, if installing it on vSAN is better than installing it on an iSCSI back storage array. They're not going to ask you questions like that, because that's technically not a NSX specific question. That's more of a design related question for somebody that's in the data center. And you'd be talking to somebody that's more of a storage person. So, or if it's smart to have your transport nodes running via DRS, which it is. And you can set up DRS rules and tie it to the VM. And if that VM's NIC is attached to an NSX segment, it should be seamless, right? So there are questions that can be asked that can cover both, but in most cases, data center virtualization, I'd say, is important because it's going to be hard for you to deploy NSX if you don't understand what clusters are, and if you don't understand what a virtual distributed switch is, or the vCenter distributed switch, things like that, and how VLAN back segments versus overlay back segments work, and things like that, or what the NSX edge is. These are going to be things that you're going to want to know about and understand before you go any further. Comment on my server that I just bought. Rob, how can you be reached to request your design skills? I don't know. I've never really been asked that question. At least that I remember. But yeah, I just ask the question if there's just something specific. I don't like it. I don't like to give out email addresses and say, hey, email me, and then give a single answer to a single person. I would rather you ask your design question publicly under whatever your screen name is, and then ask the question, and then I can either respond in a video, or I can respond to you in the comment section and redirect you to something if it needs to be done. Because this way here, I'm trying to kill more than one bird with one stone. Because if I answer individual questions to individual requesters, that's only a 1-to-1 ratio, and I try to be more, I try to answer a question that multiple people might be able to take advantage of. Cisco Data Center Nexus 9000V VXLAN 2 Legacy L2 network problems. Hey Rob, you might missed it, but you need to clear the MAC address on each switch to simulate MAC address flooding again, because the 9K1, 3, Spine 1 already know where these MAC addresses and on which ports they are learned. Great video, like always. I don't remember not doing that, but that's you're probably right. When I'm doing things on the fly, sometimes I overlook stuff that's simple. NSXV1 series introduction. Thank you, Rob. I'm going through my NSX VCP NV, and your videos have been really helpful. What was that a virtualized router? Yes. So the virtualized router that I'm using to connect to my NSXV environment is the CSR1000V, and it's acting as a top of rack device, which is what your NSX Edge, your ESG, your Edge Services Gateway, that's what you would form your OSPF or BGP peering to to the physical world. So you'd have your uplink that you would tie to your VDS port group, and that VLAN tag. You would map that to a physical interface on a top of rack, like a 9000 Nexus 9K or a Arista switch and stuff like that. And that's what you would do. But I use the CSR 1000V to act as my top of rack coming out of my ESXi environment, and then that connected to my home switch via OSPF. So yeah, that is an option. And so actually, it's funny you asked that question, because I've actually been seriously considering doing the VCAP for NSX, and doing the deploy first, and then coming back and doing the design, because design is focused on NSXT. Deploy is focusing on, at least it was anyway. Let me go back here, see if they updated it. Network virtualization, VCAP, deploy. Let's see if they've updated this at all. 6.2, yeah. So they're still focusing on NSX 6.2, which is NSX for vSphere, which means you're running an NSXV. And that is not what I want to go. I have the ability of labbing it up and going through it. So part of me is like, just go do it and knock it out, and then go past the design exam, which is, because I do a lot of NSX, but I do a lot of NSXT. So part of me wants to go just get my VCIX and DCV, or in NSX or NV, network virtualization. But I don't know. It takes a lot of time and effort. So I'm just not sure if I really want to commit to that. So next question is real world networking, what it's like to be a real network engineer. Rob, that's excellent to start the series of real world network engineering, because the benefits of the contents will be what you will be experiencing in a real networking job, and also, as you mentioned, will help you grow as a network engineer. I'm glad you see it that way. Tech support ticket 20, or tech support Thursday ticket 24. Hi Rob, I have a question. Would you advise to change job frequently, yearly, if you are developing yourself fast, or let's say are you with 2 to 5 year plan to stay with the same company? That's a good question, because I've never really covered the jumping around of jobs. Typically speaking, the only thing that I have ever jumped around for is when I ever had contracts. So if a contract was 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, 2, 3, 4 months, then I would jump around from job to job, and in the last 2 to 4 weeks of the contract, I would let my employer, whoever I was working for, know that I'm going to be shopping around for other gigs, so that when this contract ends, I can walk out of the job and then walk into another job. So, which was actually a blessing for in a lot of the cases. There were only a couple times where I was unemployed for a month maybe, and I would have to dip into a little bit of my savings or go on unemployment for a little bit. As long as the mortgage was covered, I was good to go. But basically what it boiled down to was, as time would progress, I would be involved in more and more environments. So in my first probably 4 years of my career, I touched probably 10 or 15 environments. And I learned what good and bad, ugly, and like, are you serious, look like. And it gave me some real insight as to what network engineering should look like, people that kind of just made things up as they were going. stuff like that. I had to troubleshoot some really, really stupid issues, um, and stuff like that. But you know what? For every problem that you incur that's crazy that you have to like dig into, you really never forget them, right? And you know what you did to fix them. So a lot of stuff like that comes into play, and you just kind of have to roll the punches. So I'd say if you're trying to develop yourself and you're doing a, if you've been in a position for a year, so it's kind of hard to say, if this, if that. I was in a position a few years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago now. Let me go ahead and minimize this because that's awfully bright. Where I ended up working for a company for a year, and things were good for the most part, but any project that I was involved in kept on, any change that I wanted to make kept on getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And I asked repeatedly, okay, what more needs to be done in order for me to get the approval? And I got a lot of hemming and hawing about, oh, this, that, or the other, or the business this or the business that, where there wasn't like you need to have 10 changes a year or anything crazy like that. But it was, if you say you're going to do XYZ and you don't accomplish XYZ by the next year, that's going to be a hit on your performance and you might not get a raise. Um, but it was stupid. I'd say that if you're in a position where you don't see yourself growing, or you're not challenged, or how else do you want to say that? Like, you're just kind of stale, doing the same thing every day, and you're just getting tired of it, maybe it's time for you to move on. Um, if you're in a position where you've been there for a while, you know how to fix everything, and you're just happy. I know a lot of people in the industry that have gotten to just a certain point in their career where there's really no challenge. It's an easy gig, it's easy money, and they're good to go. There might be a challenge here or there, but they just deal with it. I'd say some people are just built to do that. I am not one of those type of people. If I'm not able to, if I'm, I don't know, just to me, I can't be stagnant. I had to be challenging myself here and there. Um, so yeah, I'd say whenever you start to realize that you're not fulfilled in your job, and the pay isn't doing what you needed it to do, then it's time free to move on. But it's really hard for me to give you an exact example, because whenever I've left, it's normally not because I'm not capable of doing the job. Most of the time, I'm leaving a job is because the people that I work for, specifically a manager or the organization as a whole, I'm not in agreement with what they're doing, or there's some sort of issue in that respect, and I'm leaving. I don't want to say bad managers necessarily, because um, that makes people that are my managers in the past, or I should say were my managers in the past, means that they weren't very good people, and that's not the case. Um, there were times where I realized that I had maybe outgrown the position, or something along those lines. But oftentimes you're leaving a manager, not a job, and sometimes people just don't jive, and that's okay. Um, there's a multi responses to SD-WAN 4 onboarding vEdges to the controllers. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, I remember these coming through. So I'm going to read them in the reverse order. Thanks for the great video, Rob. I am having the same issue with the vEdge not appearing in the vManage GUI. I have followed the exact same steps and did not receive any error messages. Got the same, whoops, I'm about to drop my phone. Got the same messages as you did, but the vEdges do not appear. I'm running 18.4.5 for everything. And then another comment says, disregard my previous comment. It took about 15 minutes for the vEdges to appear in the GUI, and everything works. It works with version 18.4.5, but did not work with 18.4.4. Okay, I was having an issue with where vEdges would lose their connectivity. When I checked the show control connections command on the vEdges, I would see they lose their connection to vManage connect state. Then they would come back and go down again. Show control connection history would show decon fail, DTS connection failure. Spent 2 days troubleshooting it. vManage GUI would show vEdges being down and coming back up. The issue was caused by interface ETH1 on vManage, which in the video is connected to the management cloud on EVE-NG. Mine was set up like that as well, and the interface was configured as a DHCP client, and I could ping Google from my vManage. Configured a static IP address on interface ETH1, and it solved the issue. All vEdges are yes. So I may not have been specific on that. So I do remember that having that. I've never used DHCP. I am a static IP address type of person because the IP address changes on the vManage as you're doing reboots and a new lease is generated. Then your vEdges aren't going to know the new IP of your vManage. Your vManage, your vBond, and your vSmart should all be statically IP'd. And if you can, DNS enabled so that you can, use a DNS name and point that direction. So I definitely, if you can do that, I would definitely say for sure do that. How to spec out a server for your home IT lab. Thank you. You're welcome. A couple other comments here. And that's pretty much it. There's a couple older questions here. VMware, the basic ES6i 6.0 and 6.7 host networking setup. Hi friend, I am installed ES6i server. I want a connecting vSphere client but not connected. I want a connecting vSphere client but not connected. Want to connect, processing the question, trying to understand it. I want to connect to the vSphere client but not connected. What could be the problem? So can you ping it? That's the first thing that you would want to do. Got to be able to ping. Got to be able to ping the IP. Did you give it a gateway? Right, subnet mask. This is just some basic networking stuff that you want to do. Because as soon as you configure it and it's reachable, you should be able to ping from the DCUI. You should be able to ping your gateway, and then if you can ping your gateway, you should be able to ping from your computer that's going to be opening up your web client. So that should fix that problem. Check those basic networking settings. Security, VPN, IP1, DNVPN5. Phase 3, dual hub, single cloud. Oh god, some of these titles. Sometimes I want to kick myself for having such long titles. Priority option is not showing for Nextop server DNVPN on GNS3. You probably have an older version of code on your router, and that's why. I don't know what version of code you're running, but that's my first thing, because I know on newer versions of code, the priority feature is there. Security, configuring ASA, MPF, modular policy framework, global inspection policies. Blech, that's just a ton of stuff to spit out. Hi bro, when you do traceroute log shows ICMP, is it UDP though? Oh god, yeah, let me think here. What is that known as? It goes out as a UDP message, I think. It's been such a long time since I've done this, I don't remember. It goes out as UDP, and I believe it comes back in as an ICMP, either ICMP TTL expired and unreachable, I think. So you need to enable ICMP inspection in the global policy, because I believe it goes out as UDP and then comes back in as ICMP. Because it goes out as one and comes back in as the other, the firewall blocks it. I believe that's what it is. Because I know you can either do it through the global inspection policy. I've done it that way a bunch of times. But I also have had customers where they've disabled that global inspection policy on the ASA, and then they just have an ACL that permits TTL expiration and time exceeded, and they allow that inbound on the outside interface, and that allows the trace route to come through. It's been, I'm trying to think back of what my other ways of doing that were. Ticket 24 for TST, great video, Rob. Question: if you were starting over and going for your CCNP, which books, video courses, and study material would you use? I think I might have answered this question already, but you know what? We're just going to go with it. So I would INE, CCIE content, because that's just how I am. Their CCIE content's pretty good. I would read a bunch of books. God, what books would I read? I honestly don't even remember. Official certification guides. I'd be reading the RFCs. I'd be reading the documentation for all the different technologies. That's really important. I've been burnt. So when I started studying for the Service Provider track and was trying to pass the written exam to take the SP lab, I got a bunch of questions on the written exam. I think my third attempt, because my fourth attempt was at Cisco Live, which is my third attempt at Cisco Live, and on my fifth attempt locally here in town, I passed. So definitely read the documentation for the different versions of code you're going to be working with, because Cisco has a really, really, really sneaky way of asking you some really obscure questions. And if you have not read the documentation, it's going to be very, very obvious that you haven't. So especially when they start talking about specific variables and the different protocols, and, you know, did you read that one line on page 73 about that particular technology? Maybe. But if you didn't, it's going to be obvious that you didn't. So documentation reading for the versions of code for all the different technologies that are out there. Watch the videos to try to help you glue things together, and lab the crap out of everything. Hi, Rob. Holy cow. Oh, I've answered this question before. So I'm not going to... So you know what? I'm at this point in time, I'm good, because I'm caught up. So anyway, I'm sorry this was such a long one, but I felt like I needed to do a long one to get caught up, and all that good stuff that goes along with it. I do want to thank everybody for stopping by and hanging out. I know the beginning part of this was a really long, hey, this is all about me. But, you know, I felt like I wanted to share, and because I don't have a channel that's dedicated to non-technical stuff. I've actually been thinking about starting another YouTube channel. Not sure what I would call it. You know, Rob Breaker Outdoors or something like that. But I'll have to come up with something. I got a lot of video on me skiing, and I want to grab some video. Matter of fact, my son's going to be doing some snowboarding practice this week. We're going to be out there a lot. So we're going to be spending quite a bit of time on the hill. So I'll be pulling the GoPro out with me, and we'll be going out there and doing all that type of stuff. So I'm actually really excited about that. Beyond that, if you guys have any questions, please leave a comment in the comment section below. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will try to do my best to try to keep be more consistent on getting content done. My goal is to cover some topics and then release some videos. I know I keep saying I'm going to do that, but it was really nice not being in front of the computer. I had to be really honest with you guys, and being able to spend time with the family. I think we really needed that with the schedule. Before that was kind of crazy with some of the changes I was going through, and meaning change maintenance windows with clients and stuff like that. So, but you got to find a balance in life, and to me, I needed to, you know, to me, if the family's not good, it's hard for me to focus on other things. So, very, very family oriented. If you hadn't noticed, been married for 20 years, so it's one of those things that I take a lot of pride in. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up now. You guys have an awesome rest of your week, and I will see you guys in the next video. Hopefully not too long in the future. Take it easy, guys.